All right. Today we're talking with Pete Akins, who is pastor of True Life Center in Cedar City, Utah. We lived in
Go
Cedar back in
City.
the, huh?
Go Cedar City.
Yeah, we lived in Cedar back in the 80s and had a great run there. And then Pete and his wife Cammie and their two kids at the time, Hannah and Bubba, moved in 2003. Is that correct?
2002. Started the church in
2002.
2000.
Okay. But they're doing a great work there. They run about 1% of the city population, which figure that out for your town, whoever's listening, wherever you're listening. And God's doing a really great work in Cedar through these guys. But Pete, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you grow up? How did you become a Christian? Tell us a little bit about what life was like for you as a kiddo.
As a kid, well, 1 week from yesterday, I'll be 48. So the kiddo years are getting a little bit more foggy. But um, but I'll try to go back in the memory banks and
Yeah,
figure
okay.
that stuff. So it kind of starts probably my folks met in Bible college, right? And I got married. My dad got saved in the military. Interestingly enough, he got drafted but didn't want to shoot anybody, so he signed up as a conscientious objector
Wow.
and got assigned as a chaplain's assistant.
Okay.
Spent most of his time in Korea, and that's how he got saved. My mom, on the other hand, she grew up in a really conservative Southern Baptist Christian home. So
Mm-hmm.
they went off to what's now the Master's College. Then it was LABC, Los Angeles Baptist College, and they met each other and got married, called to be missionaries. And as people listen to that sort of prologue to my story,
Uh-huh.
you think, oh, of course he's one of those guys that grew up in a Christian home. Of course he's pastoring,
Yeah.
But after being married about 6 years, they decided it wasn't working. That's right around when I was born. I got one older sister from both of those parents.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, when I was just a couple months old, they separated. My mom moved back to LA. I was born in Seattle, Washington,
Okay.
and then I mean no lack of respect or dishonor for my folks.
Life is what
Just
it is.
life is what it is. But from the time that my mom divorced my dad, or my dad divorced my mom. I don't know
Right.
the whole issues there. But I had three more dads by the time I was 13. My mom married four times. And so, life kind of got really unstable there in my formative years. But interestingly enough, the salvation experience, my dad remarried a woman named Bev. My dad's Pat, mom's Marilyn. Current stepdad is Max, and my stepmom is Bev. And anyway, married Bev. She had two children, Dan and Michelle. So now it's a family of four. But anyway, the Bev, when my dad married her, she grew up in a Southern Baptist pastor's home. I
Oh,
remember
wow.
4 years old going to Vacation Bible School in Palm Springs at my new grandpa's church,
Okay.
and that's when I got saved. That's when I can still remember at 4 years old being in his office, bow on my knee, asking Jesus to save me. Probably wasn't until I was 15 though that I really had it out with God, and
Right.
I was going through a time where I was really struggling. Interesting, just quick story. When I was 8, for my 8th birthday, I got a New International Version Bible. It was the first Bible I remember getting. Had my name written down the lower right-hand corner. It's hardback. And I
Yeah.
took it up to Hume Lake. I don't know if you've ever been to Hume
Yeah.
Lake or any
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
Went to camp at Hume Lake, and
Yeah.
I dropped my Bible.
Uh-oh.
And when I dropped it, it fell face open to Ephesians 5 and 6. So fell in the red dirt. So for the rest of the time that I had that Bible, Ephesians 5 and 6 was stained red in my Bible. And so
Wow.
I got real familiar with children honor your parents and the Lord
Yeah. Yeah.
decides for promise. So when I was 15, I just had a fight with my stepdad, and I went outside, and I can remember shaking my fist at God and saying, hey, I'm going to do this your way, and you darn well better make good on on your end of the bargain. And so that kind of switched in
Golly
terms
gee,
of,
I wonder if he can do it.
right, exactly. Is it true? So anyway, so now, with all of the marrieds, steps, other children, I've got 5 brothers, 5 sisters. It all started with parents in Bible college. To my knowledge, I'm the only one of 11 that's really hard seeking after the Lord and
Wow.
trying to live for Him. That doesn't in any way mean that any of my siblings don't know Him.
Right.
But Him being the priority that
Sure.
drives my decisions. That's just
All right, let me ask you this. You got saved at 4 years old.
4. Yeah.
What do you think about kids getting saved? Do you think that what is your response to people when they say, I don't know if kids are old enough to understand?
Well, here's the deal, Robert. I think Jesus is the only one that gets to make that call, right? So I think one of the misnomers in Christianity is that we save people.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody would admit that. Nobody's going to say, "Yeah, I saved people," but there are people who would say, "I got 17 people saved last week."
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
But Jesus didn't say save them; He said disciple them. And I've got 4 kids that I've been discipling since the day they were born, and they all love Jesus now. They're 20, 18, 15, and 13 now. And it's funny. Before I came over here to do this Zoom call, 3 of the ones that are still living in my house are up in the morning reading their Bibles. Nobody's told them to do that. Nobody's asked them to do that. They've just seen that, and that's what they do in the mornings. 2 of them have memorized the entire book of Proverbs because I bribed them a little bit. But
yeah, tell them your bribe. Tell them your bribe.
So I was reading through Proverbs one day, and it says that anybody that internalizes the teachings in that book, God promises long and successful life. And I thought, well, that's better in college. So I made a deal, and I actually heard a friend say it, that I would buy them a car if they memorized the entire book of Proverbs. And so, of course, I'm thinking they might, get 10 chapters or something, and then I'd be off the hook having to buy cars. It's actually ended up being an expensive deal. And Leah, number 3, she's through chapter 15.
Wow.
And she's got another year before she gets her driver's license. So,
but
wow, so
that's something.
So back to your question about children getting saved. Nobody really knows when salvation.
But do you think? Let me ask you like this. In your experience, is it possible for a 4-year-old to understand well enough to actually have a relationship with Jesus? Did you?
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to it than that, right? I mean, I think that you and I, me being just barely on this side of 50, you being just barely on the other side of 50.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah. So 50's still in between us for another couple of years.
Yeah, there you go.
But we understand a relationship with Jesus probably to a level that Jesus does not require for salvation. He said, "Let the little children come to me," and I think that boy, if you and I could learn how to receive Jesus and believe Jesus the way a 4-year-old does, we'd be way ahead. We wouldn't deal with all of the stress and all of the questions and all the legalistic religious burdens that we do. So a 4-year-old doesn't have that. A 4-year-old just goes, "Oh, there's a God, and I want Him to save me."
Yeah.
Done. And that innocence, I think, is beautiful. Now, that being said, I did probably get saved 150 times, because every time I did something wrong, Lord, just to make sure you're living in my heart.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Well, now you and I have talked. I know much of your story, much of mine. And as I've said on these before, that's one reason I'm doing these, because I get to hear these stories and other people need to hear them to get some encouragement from them. But I know that your childhood was rather erratic.
Right.
And you had a stabilizing force in your life that many might not recognize as being a legitimate or the first choice of stabilization. But I want you to tell them about that.
So you must be talking about John Denver.
Oh, baby.
The greatest
Rocky Mountain High.
Singer of all time, in my opinion, the greatest singer of all time. Even
except
still,
for Herb Alpert.
Well, if I'm walking through Walmart and John Denver comes on the radio, you can ask my wife. John Denver comes on, I'll stop. It's a moment of silence. But I went to 4 different schools in elementary school, 3 of those in the 3rd grade, 2 different
Oh,
schools, 5th grade. Did my junior high in 1 state, my high school in 2 states. I've lived every state west of the Rockies before I was 18 years old. Just moving around a lot and
wow.
a lot of tension. I never saw my parents talk to each other till I was 15. But interestingly enough,
You mean your mom and your dad, your
my mom and my dad.
biological?
Right.
Okay.
And that's a whole fascinating story too. But my mom and dad both were John Denver fans, and it was kind of as if he was the only thing consistent in both places, right?
Oh, wow.
He was. In fact, it's funny. My dad and stepmom were arguing about a concert that they'd attended. My dad said, "Don't you remember we were sitting here and we went this?" And my my stepmom said, "Oh, that was your other wife that you went to that concert
Oh,
with." But
oh,
it's just kind of funny that John Denver of all people,
hmm
was in fact I'm a musician. I went to school originally to study music and wanted to be a high school band director before I went into ministry.
hmm
But I started playing the guitar when I was 15, just so that I could learn to play John Denver's music. And a greatest compliment I ever got, someone was listening to me sing. They said, "You sound a lot like John Denver," which I don't sound anything like John Denver, but hey, it was still a compliment to me. So,
So isn't that interesting that God ministered to you, gave you stability, consistency out of something that,
non-Christian,
yeah,
yeah. Did you just go away?
no, I'm here.
I hit something on my screen here, and I
Is it,
lost you.
is it just your picture?
Yep, there you're back.
Okay.
All right, sorry about the glitch there, everybody. Technical difficulties.
That's no worries. I want people to know, to have permission to receive encouragement, blessing, anything that God has for them through any means that he chooses.
Right? It's interesting. My dad and I really connected my late high school years and college years over motorcycles.
Okay.
We went to we got involved in the Christian Motorcyclist Association,
Oh, yeah.
which the interesting story of that, the founding of the Christian Motorcyclist Association was a Southern Baptist preacher named Herb Shreve and a rebellious teenage son named Herbie.
Oh, wow.
And Herbie got involved in motorcycles and in the 70s when, motorcycle culture was a bit risque, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Herb went and bought a bike to connect with his son, and they went to a motorcycle rally and saw paganism at its best, and started the Christian Motorcycle Association.
I did not know that. I was in the Christian Motorcycle Association in 85 and 86.
Mm-hmm.
I had some good friends. He had a Laverda, which is a handmade Italian bike. They only make like 5,000 a year or something like that. And we rode bikes. I had a Honda. He had a Laverda. He had a real bike. And he had been in that. And so he got me in that. And we had a good time with that for a year.
Yeah, it's just super fun.
Well, that's really cool. Let's close this one down with this realization that God's going to speak to us any way he chooses to. Yeah. One of the biggest ways God ever ministered to me was through the movie Braveheart. I know that doesn't sound real spiritual, but boy, he really ministered to me in that. And whether it's Braveheart or John Denver, if it's ministry, if it's encouragement, if it challenges us to love Jesus more, then we can receive it as from him. So, all right, good deal. We'll catch you in a minute here.